Can I get a witness?
You have 3. And now you should have a bunch more. So times, you know how the color thing works now. Kiki.
Avocado.
There's yellow.
That's what we call it? An avocado is never red.
Avocado alert.
If your avocado is red, it's not right.
It's more like a mango.
If an avocado is red, you run.
Don't eat that avocado.
Do not touch it.
That's an emergicado.
You know what I'm waiting for is the person to write into us like, red avocados are actually very delicious and rare variant.
They're rare
delicacy. You were very unfair to overripe avocados.
Yep, there is such a thing as red avocados.
I like bell peppers. Yes, bell peppers.
Why do avocados turn red?
Because they're embarrassed.
That's the kind of joke
yes.
that my son would tell me.
Because they're like, why are we on all this
They're
toast
green
for $8?
inside and taste great. They're just a different kind of avocado.
Mm-hmm.
Don't hate on red avocados.
Do not eat brown or oxidized portions of the fruit.
Yeah, don't eat the brown.
Don't eat the brown avocado. It's not good for you.
Yellow snow and brown avocado
is just the most wonderful thing, but once it turns,
it has turned.
There's nothing left to do. It's not like a banana where you're like, well, I could put it in a smoothie. No, that avocado is gone.
I find it really interesting how some avocados get when they turn, they get really stringy inside.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes you take a bite and you're like, it seemed okay.
Yeah.
And that was a really
That is not what I wanted in my mouth.
Reject the reality. Okay, so I think we're good on this.
Okay, you got you've read all 7,000 words from Mark Zuckerberg.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that the parsing of what I was parsing was not leaving out something that I thought we would want to talk about.
As long as you got the 3 things they're doing, I think we're good.
Yeah.
You haven't pressed return though, because I haven't seen your updates. Yeah, made a liar out of me.
Well, you technically started your sentence before I tabbed, so
we'll have to call it a referee on this one.
Just real draw of Google Sheets.
Okay.
Giggle sheets.
I like giggle sheets.
I use those in my laundry.
It was so funny. So Code Monkey on Twitter, I had tweeted a couple hours ago because it was raining so hard, just like I had to say something about it. And he was like, I'm in Long Beach, nothing yet. And it's like, how is it possible that it's monsoon feeling rain and Long Beach, which is not far from me at all. I was like, nope, I haven't seen it yet.
One cloud, not like
in Hawaii,
the other.
You would expect microclimates of that magnitude.
Okay.
Or San Francisco.
Is everybody ready to talk soft robots?
Let's do it.
And Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg and the soft robots. My favorite.
Oh, it's a great band.
All right. Here we go. Daily Tech News Show is powered by you. Without you, there ain't no show. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, March 21st, 2018 from DTNS headquarters in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from a very rainy Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
And joining us today, the host of This Week in Science, Dr. Kiki is back.
Hi there. I need a name for my studio.
Do you not have a name for your studio?
Not yet. I need to.
Let's start a raffle.
The Twist Studio. There we go.
Well, that is descriptive.
Hi.
The Erlenmeyer flask of content.
There we go.
No. Our producer, Roger Chang, has more sense than to say things like that, don't you, Roger?
Yes. Hello.
We are going to talk about soft robots. We're going to talk about Mark Zuckerberg's, I don't think it's soft, nor is it hard, his appropriate response, I don't know, his long response, basically, to the whole Cambridge Analytica thing. Let's start with a few tech things you should know.
Well, you might recall when the Wall Street Journal reported that Jimmy Iovine would leave Apple. Now, Iovine denied that at the time, and now the Journal reports its sources say Iovine will transition into a consulting role with Apple this August. August was the original rumor for when he was going to depart the company. So, might be related, might not be. Technically, supposedly, Iovine is not leaving Apple. He'll just step back from the day-to-day operations he's been involved with since Apple acquired Beats in 2014.
Google announced new security features for Google Cloud Platform. Among features are a new security level for API-based services, a tool called Cloud Security Command Center, and denial of service prevention measures, including something called Cloud Armor. G Suite also got some security updates to its dashboard and new defaults for flagging untrusted email.
The European Commission proposed a new tax Wednesday for companies with annual worldwide revenue above 750 million euros and annual taxable EU revenues above 50 million euros. A 3% turnover tax would be charged on activities in which a user plays a role in value creation, such as viewing ads, conducting online trading, or allowing their data to be sold. Large tech companies would be the main ones affected.
And Facebook will now let group admins approve people invited by non-admin members of a group chat on Messenger, as well as remove people and make people admins. Any member of a group chat can create a link to send for people to join the chat in Messenger. So now you can invite anybody in, but the admin can decide whether they get to come in or stay in. Let's talk a little bit more about less enjoyable aspects of Facebook.
Well, it's certainly dramatic, that's for sure. So WhatsApp co-founder Brian Acton posted on Twitter, whether you missed it or not, I'll let you know what happened. It's time. Hashtag delete Facebook. Now, he didn't create this hashtag. This is something that's been floating around for years, really, but had come up recently with other people before he posted this. However, it's significant that Acton posted it because back in 2014, along with co-founder Jan Koum, Brian Acton sold WhatsApp to Facebook for $16 billion, of which I believe the story is that he got about $6 billion personally. Acton left Facebook-owned WhatsApp earlier this year to start his own foundation, has since invested $50 million in Signal, not exactly a straight-on competitor to WhatsApp, but certainly a messaging app competitor. In a related note, Mark Zuckerberg finally responded to Facebook's handling of the Cambridge Analytica scandal in a post. Very long, but it was heartfelt, I believe. He said Facebook had made mistakes, that the company took the most important actions to prevent this from happening again years ago. He also laid out a three-step plan to rebuilding user trust. Notably, Facebook will remove developer access to your data if you haven't used the service in 3 months, among other things. The company is also performing audits on apps.
Yeah, so these are a big deal. The third thing he's going to do is put the toolbar that exists for you to control your private data at the top of your news feed, so that everybody knows it's there and everybody sees it and can go and review.
Yeah, it's not buried in some settings somewhere. Which, admittedly, I'm pretty good at finding things in settings, but Facebook is great about burying things that I actually might want to find.
So auditing old apps proactively. Taking your data out of apps if you haven't actively used them, that's a great idea. Kiki, does this make you feel better?
I guess so. I mean, I've been monitoring my own personal security for a long time. So for myself, it's like a little bit too little too late, maybe. But at the same time, I think for people who this isn't on the top of their mind all the time and all they want to do is click on a button and find out what their Irish leprechaun name is or whatever it happens to be, that they're not their data and all of their friends' data isn't accessible as a result of, these sleights of fancy that we have every once in a while.
I mean, can we go back to Brian Acton for a second? Because, that whole thing is like, there's nothing wrong with someone saying, I want to get off Facebook. There's also nothing wrong with someone saying Facebook is harmful for these reasons, and this is why I think you should delete it, and add a hashtag. There are levels to this. The fact that Brian Acton sold his company to Facebook for billions of dollars just several short years ago just makes me wonder. I mean, even if most of the time, especially when you're at such a high executive level, right? Most of the time, even if you were to hate Facebook for whatever reason, you'd be under contractual obligation not to ever disparage the company for a million years into the future. So it's very odd to me that happened, even if it seems flippant, not from him.
Yeah, it is a big question because I was thinking the same thing, that there would be a contractual obligation of some.
Well, he may not have a contractual obligation, or maybe he is confident that he could fight that in court and say, yeah, it's not a valid one. I get to criticize people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have no idea.
I got $16 billion.
Both of those scenarios are odd.
Multiple sources tell TechCrunch that Google will acquire Lytro, which makes depth data light field technology. It used to be a big deal in imaging, the fact that it could do this sort of take one picture and you could focus it later and change it later and have all the pixels in there. They recently pivoted to aiming themselves at virtual reality, and it appears they have finally decided they can't make a go of it. According to this report, is probably going to be an asset sale. They have about 59 imaging patents that Google could take advantage of, and not all the employees would become Google employees. It looks like they just want to buy the technology.
I remember when the LitroCam first was announced, it was back, I don't know. I mean, you and I were both working at Twit, Tom. Yeah. You too, Kiki, probably. Yeah. And, it was so neat. It's like, oh my gosh, a camera that you can, focus after the fact. And, it's going to change the way that the world views photography. And it was kind of hard to get a demo unit. And then, I sort of forgot about it. And I mean, I haven't heard the name Lytro in probably years.
Because they pivoted to VR, and I haven't seen anything come out of that, right?
Well, exactly. That's the thing, is like where a lot of good technology has, I'm not going to say it goes to die, because that would be, that's not true, but it's sort of that a victim of being too far ahead of its time.
And they're not talking about this thing selling for a lot of money either. Like this is I don't want to say it's a fire sale, because this is all reports based on sources. It hasn't actually been confirmed yet. But if the numbers they're throwing around are true, it's not a lot of money.
Not a lot of money, but the potential for Google to be able to use all this technology in the VR space, it could allow them to do things that otherwise would have cost them a lot more money through licensing.
Yeah, maybe in the Google Clip, that little photo thing could use some Lytro tech in there.
Yeah. Or they're going to license it to everybody else.
Sure.
Because Google does that.
Stranger things have happened. True. YouTube's global head of music, Lear Cohen, said in an interview at South by Southwest that YouTube will increase the number of ads played between songs on YouTube in order to encourage users to upgrade to its paid subscription service. Kill them with annoyance. Always a good tactic. A new music service is being tested at Google and includes exclusive videos and playlists, among other features. Google has a service called Google Music that is included under the YouTube Red subscription, which removes ads from YouTube when you're part of that service. Boom. Well, I don't know. What do you guys think? It certainly encourages, if YouTube's end goal is to be like, if you give somebody enough ads that they hate and it ruins their experience, maybe they'll upgrade. It certainly doesn't discourage the worst kinds of ads, because in a way that would, incentivize people to get rid of that entire thing.
It's odd because they already have a music service called Google Music that is part of YouTube Red, which removes commercials. So I'm always confused by the fact, like, oh, we're going to launch a new thing altogether, even though they already have it. So what I'm hoping as a Google Music subscriber is this new thing just says, hey, Google Music, now part of YouTube Red. Now it's this new YouTube Music service. It's all one thing. I hope they don't start a whole new thing that is separate from this.
I don't know. I mean, my guess is that the YouTube brand for so many people, I mean, sure, it's not some sort of a mystery that Google owns YouTube, but for so many folks who consider YouTube its own thing and Google Music is like maybe related, maybe not, it's like you might want to mesh them later, but get a lot of people used to this on Google Music first.
Yeah. And on YouTube, you're going to be sitting and watching a music video, and then maybe you get into watching a playlist of these videos. And it's a nice thing that you can have running for a while, but these ads might make that less appealing. And so you might move into that YouTube Red subscription or the new YouTube subscription. But I think that it might just, if people end up having playlists of videos that they watch, that they might just end up pivoting to something entirely different, like Spotify or, something for music in the background.
Scientists at the University of California, San Francisco, working with app maker Cardiogram, published a study in the JAMA Cardiology Journal, Journal of the American Medical Association. So I just said journal twice. I know. Showing the Apple Watch can detect abnormal heart rhythms with 97% accuracy. More than 139 million heart rate and step count measurements were collected from 9,750 users of the Cardiogram app, who also enrolled in the UCSF Health eHeart study. The data was used to train a Cardiogram-made neural network to distinguish atrial fibrillation. Cardiogram and UCSF are also working on detecting hypertension, sleep apnea, early signs of diabetes using various wearable devices, not just the Apple Watch. But Kiki, this one's pretty interesting because it means you could get some early detection just by wearing a device.
Absolutely. And 97% accuracy is really a really high level of accuracy. That's going to be high enough to work very well in most cases for people. And this is the kind of thing that's really going to push forward these devices as more personal health devices, as opposed to just, notifying you about emails.
I think the Cardioband was part of this study as well. And a lot of these stories are spinning it as the Apple Watch was better than the FDA-approved Cardiogram. No. And really, the point of the study was like, hey, these are all pretty close. They're all above 90%. They're all really good at it.
Yeah, they're all really good at it. And I mean, if you've already got the Apple Watch and you can download the app and it can give you this kind of information, and then maybe they can give it greater functionality later with other things like sleep apnea detecting and that sort of thing, then you're going to be finding your watch to be super functional in a way that you never thought it would be before.
I have the Cardiogram app, and every time I read a study, I'm like, "Ooh, I want to be part of this study." And every time I go to add it, I check it out.
Why?
So like, I don't know if I trust them. I think I trust them now that they're peer reviewed. I should let go of that. I'm being paranoid.
Don't be paranoid.
Find out if you have abnormal heart rhythm.
I know. I'm like, maybe I want to buy an Apple Watch for once.
Yeah, I don't know. These health apps, they're starting to get pretty powerful. Also powerful, Netflix, in a different way. Netflix announced it's opening a public bug bounty program on the Bug Crowd bug bounty program. However, an even bigger issue, or at least an evolution, is that Netflix is changing its typeface from Gotham to something called Netflix Sans. It's a new typeface. It was actually created and developed with designers Dalton Mogg and Netflix itself, and will actually save Netflix millions in licensing fees, which it had to do for this typeface that it had been using for all these years. So it doesn't look very different, but it is.
Roger, scroll down on the screen so we can see the actual Netflix typeface. Do they not show it on this story from TechCrunch? Weird.
It's the other story. The one,
that's
not the bug story. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Now, folks, on the audio podcast, it's not Comic Sans.
Nope.
Netflix Sans.
Well, Sans is something that you get appended to the end of lots of different kinds of typefaces, but it is not. It does look different.
Just looks like Helvetica a little bit.
It doesn't look crazy different, but it does give you a sense of when you think of how licensing and contracts work. Something like Netflix, which uses, think of all the impressions, right? That typeface that it was licensing, was gaining. After a while, you have your own. You pay the guy who made it. In this case, I think it's a man, and you're better off. Millions a year in licensing fees.
Oh, Gotham's just a part of a big company. The licensing, Gotham was invented a long time ago. So yeah, Netflix wants to.
The company that has the rights to that typeface.
They want to pay Dalton Mogg, the designing company, Dalton Mogg. They want to pay that one time. They don't have to keep paying them. You're right.
Yeah, if they can affect their bottom line in that way, it's beneficial. If it's going to keep my subscriber fees down by a little bit, I like it.
Here's the thing. Everybody right now has a little part of them, myself included, that wants to criticize this typeface.
I don't.
Just don't.
I don't. It's really a nice typeface. There aren't, I know we're all supposed to hate Comic Sans because it's just sort of its own joke at this point.
Yes.
But do you hate any other typefaces? Can you guys think of another typeface that you just hate when you see?
Sometimes Zap Dingbats really annoys me.
But that's
I can't read it.
I feel like as long as you can read something, it's not. You know,
and granted, there are typeface nerds out there. I get it. They're very happy we're saying typeface and not font right now. I get it.
Sure.
But just, you know,
typeface for the appropriate situation. It's all about design principles.
Exactly. Yes. Folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, you can subscribe to Daily Tech Headlines. It'll appear on your Amazon Echo as a flash briefing if you like. Also available on Google Home and on the Anchor app, and as a good old-fashioned podcast at dailytechheadlines.com. And that is a look at our top stories. Ars Technica's John Timmer has an article up today about Columbia's robotics lab making robotic muscle and sensitive polymer. It's really an overview of the whole lab, but he talked to Hod Lipson, who runs the lab, who is pursuing the question, can you 3D print a robot that can walk out of the printer, batteries included? The answer so far is still no, but he's getting closer. There were two particular projects the lab is working on that caught my eye that Timmer wrote up. One is involved with soft robots. Now, Kiki, soft robotics is kind of a big emerging trend in robotics, right?
It is, absolutely. This is a direction that many roboticists are attempting to go because these are more bio-inspired robots. These are going to be robots that can, act like octopuses. Octopuses? Octopuses. Yeah, octopuses, and squeeze into small spaces to be able to move in multiple degrees of freedom for the movement directions they want to go in, or to even be able to have more varied behaviors than the typical hard-shelled metallic robots.
Aslan Miriev was demonstrating for Timmer an artificial muscle project they're working at Columbia. It uses a liquid silica gel mixed with ethanol. The ethanol turns into bubbles, liquid-filled bubbles. But when you send a current through the gel, the bubbles, because ethanol is an alcohol, vaporize very easily. They're very volatile. That expands the entire gel like a muscle. So they can do things like put it in a mesh. So when it expands sideways, it curls the edges and you get muscle contraction. And one of the things Lipson was saying in the interview was this allows them to make essentially motors that can fit in lots of places that a hard steel made motor just couldn't fit.
And I mean, the idea of being able to print these soft muscles that could be used in opposing ways, the way that the muscles around our skeletons work. I mean, you're going from an exoskeleton to an inner skeleton. You're potentially going to a point where these muscles are working in an easier way than what we're looking at today with like hydraulics and other principles.
Yeah. So all these movies with like metal robots are just going to look real dated when soft robots take over.
I know. Terminator is just really going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Well, Terminator 2 was, the liquid dude, right?
The liquid metal dude. Yeah. So that could be close, right?
Yeah. But not exactly what we're talking about. All they could think of is like, what if the metal was melted?
They got close. They got a little softer, but it was still metal. The other project they talk about in this article is sensitive polymer. Matej Chokarlia wants to make Luke Skywalker's robotic hand from the end of Empire Strikes Back. That's his personal goal. So he's got a bunch of different projects, some of which help stroke victims sort of retrain their hands. But the one that caught my eye embeds small light sources and optical sensors along the edge of a polymer so that when that polymer is deformed, so let's imagine it's, a skin on a robot. When that polymer is deformed, those sensors change how they pick up the light from the embedded lights, and you can train again, probably a neural network or some kind of machine learning situation to understand, oh, that means I got poked. That means I got slightly, rubbed. That means pressure. That means cutting. That means stop. But you could basically simulate the sensitive nature of our skin.
Which is a huge deal when it comes to the physical nature of robots. And before the show, Roger brought up the idea that one of the big holy grails to robotics is the ability to pick up a piece of fruit and not leave a bruise on it, that a robot would have that sensitivity to be able to hold something, cradle it gently in its hands and not crush it, And so this kind of advance it seems like a it's a sensible way to approach it, in that the physical changes that are also overlaid with these optical changes, they work together in synchronous behavior, so it can work really well. Yeah, it's exciting. This is really neat work that they're doing. And then you take them both and you put them together, and you have a sensitive robot with Luke Skywalker hands who walks right out of the 3D printer.
And then he goes and he finds Sophie, the soft robot fish from MIT that's swimming around, and he goes on adventures. I think we have
the adventures. It's the next Miyazaki film.
The next robot. Yeah. So no, soft robots are a big deal. MIT's computer science and AI lab is working on a soft robot fish that just swims like a fish, so it can get in places that other robots might not be able to, and also doesn't spook the other fish as much because they think, oh, that just looks like one of us. So.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about this is the electrical signals that the fish is giving off. It's the remote control or even if it's working through AI, there are electrical signals that it's giving off, communicating the data that it's collecting with some kind of receiver. And they're using very high kilohertz level radio frequencies that actually are not picked up by the fish. And that's one of the ways that they're maintaining it in a non-invasive way in these coral reef habitats.
Well, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit and helps us find these cool stories. You can submit stories yourself and vote on the ones that have been submitted at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com and talk with other folks at facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow.
We're not deleting Facebook yet, everybody.
Nope.
We are going to, however, check in with Chris Christensen with some travel tech that's trying to also do some good.
This is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler with another Tech in Travel Minute. I've got an app for you today, but this one's a little more serious. You can help stop human trafficking by downloading an app called Traffic Cam, that's traffic with a C and a K, and taking a picture of your hotel room next time you stay in a hotel. The National Human Trafficking Resource Center uses those pictures. They've got a database of hotel rooms to identify hotel rooms in photos and videos of people who are victims of human trafficking who are being exploited for sex. Last year, they had 1,434 reports of human trafficking in hotel rooms and motels, and this will help them more easily track down where that is so that they can alert authorities. The app again is Traffic Cam with a C and a K in the traffic. And this is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler.
Interesting way to go about that. Thank you, Chris. amateurtraveler.com. Let's check the mailbag, Sarah.
Let's. By far, the most responses we've gotten to any news story in a while have been on the idea of autonomous cars, based on the Uber story of an autonomous car striking and killing a woman 2 days ago. Andrew wrote in and said, if I remember correctly, Uber is using Volvo XC90 hybrids, those are SUVs, for their autonomous vehicles, at least in the testing programs. I wonder if it was in electric mode at the time of the accident. Could that be that this is more of an example of the dangers of a too quiet car than of any of our other societal fears?
Well, I'd say you don't have to choose. That could be a contributing factor to this, right? I mean, she was in the dark. It was hard, according to what the police have said. And if that car was in electric mode, she might not have realized it was in motion. So yeah, that's a fair point. And then David from Autonomous Cars Can't Get Here Soon Enough, Minnesota, said, in regards to autonomous cars, I think people's expectations need to be more realistic. The software is never going to be perfect because the software was created by people, and people are not perfect. That said, the goal should be, and probably is, that autonomous cars are safer than human drivers the vast majority of the time, with the autonomous cars never being less safe than human drivers. Planes are a good example because as safe as they are, and as much money that's invested into their safety, planes are still not 100% safe, and there are still occasionally crashes and problems. But because autonomous cars will have to contend with the randomness of people and animals, there will always be a chance that something tragic will happen there too. I like this email because David's pointing out, look, just because there's been one accident doesn't mean autonomous cars are safe. It also doesn't mean they're unsafe. What it means is we've got our first data point and we need to keep collecting data and we need to try to make them at least as safe, if not somewhat safer than people, but nothing's ever going to be 100%.
Nope. Just watch out for those sneaky, quiet cars.
I will. I mean, when I read that email, from Andrew, and Andrew was not making the case of like it was probably just quiet because it was an electric mode. He was just asking, but I'll tell you guys, there was especially at this one house that I lived at where I often walked around a corner that was kind of a blind corner. And there were so many Priuses at that point on the roads that half the time I'd be like, because you really don't hear them coming. I mean, that is a hazard in some form. It's not what we're talking about here necessarily, but it plays in depending on what kind of cars you're using.
Yeah, we don't know, but it could be. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've been contending with a lot of people who are listening, especially if they're listening to the episode from a couple days ago, just piping up somewhere like Twitter and saying, so you're saying autonomous cars are safe? We never said that. At least I never said that. What we're saying is this doesn't prove anything one way or the other. What this does is it provides us our first test case, and it's horrible and unfortunate.
I think on the contrary, it proves that autonomous cars have a lot of work left to do in order for us to all feel that they're safe.
Yeah, certainly. And that was true before this. And I hate to say it, but there will be an accident like this again, because there are with cars that are human driven. And the more we find out about what happened here, the more that can be done to prevent that from happening again, and hopefully delay that other tragic accident, but that's coming down the road. But as you know, it's a sad fact that having cars, whether they're autonomous or human driven, is dangerous.
Yeah, I don't know, but would you rather be inside that autonomous car as a passenger or be walking on the streets at this point in time?
I don't know. Right. I mean, because
I don't know.
Hitting another car.
I mean, inside the car usually is always going to be my choice.
Inside the car, you're more likely to hit another car, which is more dangerous. At least as a pedestrian, you might be able to see what's going on. Like I sometimes feel like being a pedestrian. Right? Yeah, no, it's an interesting question. Exactly.
So many questions. What isn't in question is how great it is to have Dr. Kiki Sanford on the show. That's for sure. Good to see you again, Kiki. I guess the last time you were on, I don't know, sometime in the last couple of months. It's definitely been since I was part of DTNS full time. But
you come back in,
But come back soon. And in the meantime, let folks know where they can keep up with all of your work.
Well, you can keep up with me at Dr. Kiki on Twitter, twist.org, online for all things This Week in Science. And if you just look for me there, you'll find me. This Week in Science. We go live tonight. We broadcast live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific time.
Excellent.
It's so much fun. If you have not ever experienced This Week in Science, go do it. Whether it's live or on demand, you gotta check it out. Twist, TWIS.org. And hey, if you haven't supported us on Patreon, that's pretty fun too, in a different way, because it makes you feel good, because it made us possible. So big thanks to everyone who already supports us and continues to support us. Our goal every month is to try to get at least one more patron than last month. So get in the pool, patreon.com/DTNS. And don't forget, we also have some DTNS gear that you can spread the word with. Wear a hoodie, wear a t-shirt, even a onesie. We have some babies out there wearing a Born Ready onesie. So go check them out. In fact, the people who work on the 3D mantises have finally noticed that we have a tiny mantis shirt in the store as well. So I kind of want to send them some. Please join us at dailytechnewsshow.com/store.
Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You got a question about something that we talked about, you have a comment, you have an explanation. It takes a village, people. So please don't hold back. Feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC. And you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Justin Robert Young's off tomorrow, but Annie Gauss will be with us. We'll talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
It's Rev 3 week.
It is. It's awesome.
Annie Gauss, Dr. Kiki.
Sorry.
That was fun.
Why are you sorry?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. That's great.
You nut?
In a way that seemed like, titles.
Titles.
What are we going to call this?
Show up at that chatroom.net. You can follow along as I select the most appropriate title because it's humorous, relevant, or just because it tickles her toes. At showbot.chatroom.net.
Toe tickling. Oh, tickling.
Oh, tickling titles.
Oh, tickling titles.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roboto, but that might be too much of a old guy throwback.
I like Zuckerberg and the soft robots.
Ladies and gentlemen, Zuckerberg and the soft robots.
Zuck and the soft bots. That actually sounds like a children's book.
I don't like the sound of it.
Zuck you very much. It sounds dirty, but it's not.
Well, that's the thing about the name Zuckerberg is, that's the name. But when you say
Sugar
Zuck,
Mountain.
I hear suck.
Mm-hmm,
I don't like that very much.
Yep. His name means Sugar Mountain. Do you remember when we?
I do. Yes.
Big gold king
I
mountain.
remember.
We had a long-running discussion of that on TNT for days. I remember at one point.
Well, which is funny because it's like, even if you're not familiar with German, like if you just like separate
Right,
Zucker and Berg, it's like you'd almost just come like it's like almost what you would you'd guess it meant.
Yeah, it's not hard to puzzle out.
Yeah.
There's bio-inspired robots and the robot apocalypse, now with more squish than crush.
That's definitely long.
That's long, but it's thorough.
Yeah.
The apocalypse gets squishy. Squish apocalypse?
Squish apocalypse. Soft bottle lips, apocalypse. No, that doesn't work.
Oh, good to know. My Flickr Pro account auto renewed.
Great.
Oh, that's cool. So did my MySpace account.
I mean, I think if Flickr had not auto renewed, which I obviously told it to do that at some point,
click that.
If
button.
it had not auto renewed and said, for $40 annually, will you just? I have so many photos in Flickr organized to the T.
But you don't want to lose it.
Well, it's almost worth it to me to just be like, for $40, I'll think about this next year.
What's the title, by the way? Because I need it.
You didn't like bio-inspired robots.
Data privacy with 3 times more
I expressed no opinion on bio-inspired robots. Is that what we're going with?
Bio-inspired robots. That seems relatively informational about what we did.
Yeah,
It is.
I'm into it.
All right.
Cool.
Oh, yeah. And those robots.
No window can be gleaned from that title.
Not every title has to be hilarious. Sometimes they can be accurate.
From that one, I can't wait until they put the models for how to 3D print those muscles online. I mean, people are going to be printing those things right and left. There's going to be these little spider robots crawling all over the place.
Did you see that they use cream cheese to test their 3D printers?
We'll use it with cream cheese.
Well, apparently because it's got the same consistency as some materials, but it's cheaper. So if they're like, we need to do a test, but we don't want to spend all of our actual material, and they just
I still think a really good representation of what life with everyday robotics would have looked like in our contemporary time period, would be the movie.
Oh, don't die.
You okay there, Roger?
Okay.
See, Roger's the king of
Roger, don't die.
guess the way my sentence ended today.
Hey, that would be a great Runaway with Alex Trebek, Tom Selleck.
Alex Trebek or Tom Selleck.
The other guy with a mustache.
I think it's based on the Michael Crichton book.
Wait, Tom Selleck stars in a. This is the movie you're talking about?
No, Alex Trebek.
The movie Runaway. Here, I'll bring up a pic.
Alex Trebek should do more theater.
Runaway also stars Gene Simmons.
Yes, he's the bad
And
guy.
his tongue.
Sounds really good.
And it was directed by Michael Crichton, not just written.
Oh. Michael
I
Crichton.
didn't realize he was directing anything.
Browser. That was alliteration.
That's neat.
It's got Kirstie Alley.
Oh,
yeah,
Kirstie Alley.
she's in that one as well.
Wow.
It's an all-star cast of why are they in this movie?
It was 1984. It made sense
What are
then.
they doing here now? Kirstie
Sure.
Alley when she was young.
Just play that Kanye video. It's fine. Same idea.
Oh, here's Gene's.
Oh, neat. This looks like my kind of movie.
Oh, he's dying to.
But those are spider robots. Those are one of his.
I've seen this movie. I saw this a long
so they're like
time
little
ago.
assassin robots,
Yes.
and they have a little hypodermic needle at the end that injects hydrochloric acid into its victims.
Oh, I would never watch this. It gives me the willies.
They have robots building buildings. They have a homemade robot with a single arm that makes pasta. Is basically a nanny. They had Ford Tempos as self-driving automated cars. They had little drones that float, and they used for the police would release one into a building, and we could use it as a remote sensor thing. Right here, this is what they used. I don't know why this movie's great. I love it.
You say great.
Right, here's the drone.
How are you defining great?
Like, this is a little single fan. It would float up, and they would go through the house. And basically, the premise of the movie is someone is loading up a lot of these robots with a replacement for the 8086 Intel processor that causes them to go homicidal and kill people.
That's great.
I don't like spiders.
I don't like 8086.
You like Spider-Man? Or do you think that's too close?
Spider-Man does not remind me of an arachnid. So, sure.
Do you save spiders or smash them?
No, I don't kill anything.
Yay, okay. Take them outside. Save a spider.
I'm afraid of them, but I don't
leave them.
You know.
If they're in the corner catching bugs, I let them do whatever.
It depends on what the spider is.
Yeah, Black Widows I kill. I'm sorry.
Like if it's like
listen, I've killed a spider here and there, but I, if at all possible, I don't kill anything I want out of my house.
And the ones that climb in your mouth while you're asleep, I swallow. So.
Salad spiders.
Always have to take it there.
Spiders.
No, it's spiders. I just I can't. They just scare me. It's one of those things, Arachnophobia is real, but I still don't want to murder them. That's not the solution.
It's weird. I'm less afraid of large spiders than I am of small ones because I can see a large one, and so I know it's coming.
But the large ones
move that fast.
The large ones, you can almost see like their heart moving, and they've got fur.
Oh, have you ever held a tarantula? It's like a little dog.
I've never held a tarantula.
Oh, they're great. They're like. They run across your.
Why would you say that?
Why would I do such a thing?
Why would you put that picture in my brain?
Yeah. It's like, have you ever had a lot in your mouth? No.
Never. Not do
Tarantulas are harmless. I mean, unless you're
allergic to their venom. They're like muscular and they have fur and faces and.
Hey, you know what? It's the ones that I don't see that scare me.
Accusingly.
They're the ones that
I love jumping spiders with all their eyes. And those little
because they jump. They're that much less able to predict.
Oh my God, they're so cute.
Let's shift the conversation to nudibranchs.
Now, nudibranchs, they're just cute and pretty, and
something we all
colorful.
They all taste like seawater. That's why I don't like them.
You don't eat nudibranchs.
Who eats a nudibranch?
Somebody probably does.
Oh yeah,
Roger.
Might be Roger.
It's like a sea, not a sea worm. It's
an enemy.
It's a marine gastropod. It's a mollusk. It's related to a mollusk.
Little bear.
I still don't.
No, you can eat them. I mean, I don't think they're good eating.
I don't know. Kiki, remind me where you grew up. Are you California?
California.
You're California. Okay, so Tom, maybe I'm not totally sure how it works.
The only non-native Californian on
the
this
only
planet.
non-native California, but like when you guys were in, I don't know, 5th or 6th grade, did you do like tide pool tours with the school?
Oh yeah.
Oh, those were the most
No.
fun. I loved those.
Science camp.
Yeah.
No.
That's where you tried to step it on the sea anemones
in Illinois.
because they would squirt seawater because it was low tide.
Oh, well, it
Right.
was just like, I mean, there was so much. I mean, you're little kids and you're running around, you're at the beach, whatever, trying to, not slip on rocks and stuff. But like, you really did learn so much. In the,
have
I
any
love the tide
beaches?
pool tours.
And then if
All
you're
those
like,
tide pools in Illinois.
Now, you know what we did? We went out and learned about fence rows and erosion on somebody's farm.
Well,
we did that.
yeah.
I feel like we might have gone to the lake once and did something, fairly distant but similar to what you're talking about as far as
Yeah.
ecosystems and everything. Yeah.
Freshwater aquatic
In
ecology.
fifth grade, one thing we did do that I loved was we created ecosystems in a jar where we were sent out to the woods behind the playground because small town to find. It was like a scavenger hunt. You needed to find dead leaves, soil,
I remember that.
earthworms, and a couple other things, and you put them in a jar and see if you could, keep the ecosystem going.
we had to raise mealworms.
That was just because they were
Yummy.
selling them. They were using you for free labor.
And then you feed the mealworms cornmeal, and then you dry them out, and then you turn them into flour, and you put them in cookies.
Mealworm cookies.
Are they high
nice.
in
Protein.
nutrient?
High in protein, yeah.
Somebody
and
had to be high to eat
in
those
some,
cookies.
mineral
Yeah, really.
that are
Tell me
great.
about it. In fifth grade, just to make it really weird, my junior high, my middle school was next to a cemetery, big cemetery, and like
So we
in
had to
fifth-
dig up dead
in
people.
fifth grade, we did not dig up anybody, but we did like, I mean, it was really like my fifth grade classroom was like on the other side of the fence was where the cemetery started. Nobody really thought that was weird. It's just, that's what it was. And we like went to like the old part of the cemetery and meditated with a student teacher one day. Like the student teacher was like, I got no curriculum. Let's go to the cemetery and just like take all the kids and we'll all just sort of meditate, And boy, the parental backlash after that whole thing, where moms were like, wait, what did my kid do? Like, my kid said he spoke to dead people. You're a student teacher. What the heck is happening at Twin Hills Elementary?
Yeah.
It was so
You
funny.
did what?
And like some of the parents didn't care, but I mean, it was like, I remember all the kids, we were sort of like, this is really cool, but like, this is going to be problematic.
They made a nature trail in the woods behind our playground, which was great. Like it was just wood chips and little stands saying this is this kind of plant and it was fun. You could just walk through and walk back out. And when it first opened, we would just go in there during recess. And then later they shut it down and they said you can't go in there unless the teacher is with you. And we were all so upset. We're like, why? There's nothing dangerous in there. And of course now as a grown up, I'm like, I can't imagine the parents finding out like, oh yeah, the kids just go run in the woods and we can't see them during recess.
Right,
It's
exactly.
not okay. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There's all sorts of things where you're sort of like, I have an inkling that this might be weird for like my parents, but whatever. See what we can get away with.
I mean, as
Yeah,
long as they
it's
have some
changed.
sort of GPS collar so you can locate them.
That's
Yeah,
right.
they
Have you
didn't have that back
microchipped
then.
your child yet, Roger?
No. I don't know. Seems kind of an odd thing to do.
Yeah,
Actually,
I do.
microchipping your pet makes the logical sense of it. It's still an odd thing to do.
It is still an odd thing to do.
Is it somewhat a thing that's been adopted to microchip a little kid?
No,
No.
not really. No.
Okay. I mean,
No,
I don't.
like-
I mean, my cats are microchips, but I just don't know if
No,
anybody.
not.
microchips.
I mean,
The Brilliant LLC will be microchipping its employees.
no, but there are some kids that are
I
runners.
never leave my house, Tom. I mean, welcome to a real boring
I
data
have
set.
I
Thank
have
goodness
a
you're
friend
popular.
whose child in preschool and kindergarten just leaves the school, just runs. He gets away from
Oh.
all the teachers and he just goes running. And he's gotten called all the many times, and so
Is
he's
his
had
name
to
Logan?
right.
Is his name Forrest?
No, but they've put they've put tags on him on his like every day they have to put a tag on his pants and on his backpack and it's where so he can be tracked. I mean, it might be
So I
easier
guess
to
Doesn't
just
ditch the
microchip him.
backpack, huh?
I guess in more tribal days, in pre-bronze and Stone Age communities, he would have been like the scout. You go on ahead and see what's up there. You don't hear any
the natural
screaming.
instinct to run ahead.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I just remembered the child's name is Race.
Ah!
Oh, nice.
That's amazing.
That's great.
That's not a bad name. Race.
No.
Kind of, it's like it could mean so many things.
Mhm.
Well, sadly,
Well.
what this means is that we must go. Thank you all for joining us.
Bye.
It was fun.
Bye.
Thank you.